Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I am your boy R.W. Coolins, first and foremost giving out of the guy who allows me to come to you in this manner on a weekly basis. Got a good show for y'all this morning, y'all. Got a good one. Let's get these formalities out the way real quick. R.W. Coolins over all social media platforms. Go there, like, share, subscribe. Do what you do with all those other people you follow. You know, like, share, subscribe. Share, tell your friends. Tell friends that people you don't even talk to anymore. Tell them about it too. Tell them tune in. We got good information we're bringing to you each week, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific here on Speak On the Show. We're broadcasting live on YouTube and Facebook this morning. For all long-time listeners, welcome back. For first-time listeners, welcome aboard. Appreciate you coming in. Appreciate you tuning in. Call in number 844-904-2665. That's 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask is say what you mean what you say. We come in as friends, we leave as family. That's what we do here on the Speak On It show. I got a special guest with me this morning. Special guest. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in. I'm gonna go ahead and bring Miss Michelle Sumrall. Miss Michelle.
Good morning.
Sumrall. I always want to say Sumrall. Don't judge.
I know everybody does.
Miss Michelle Sumrall. We got a couple good mornings already. Let's see who's in this morning. Raymond Hunter. Good morning, my brother. Appreciate your support. Trent Branch. Good morning, my good brother. Appreciate you, my brother. Appreciate you. Willis Cheney. Back at you, bro. Good morning. Brian Hoodie. Good morning. Trent Branch. Oh, your phone call. Yeah, we not even gonna discuss that on here right now. I try to check on my brothers. I try to check on my brothers, but they don't pick up, they don't want to hear what I gotta say sometimes. But it's family. I'll call you, bro. I'll call you. So Miss Michelle Sumrall, hey, you know what? I just realized this morning I haven't talked to you on this platform since January of 2023.
It's been a minute.
And a lot has happened.
A lot has happened.
A lot has happened. A lot of changes, a lot of things going on in your life and things that you want to let our listeners know about to make them aware of some things. But before we get into that, I want you to start off, if you can, give them a little introduction. Most people that were in last time probably know you. But let's give a little synopsis of who you are, where you come from, down in Columbus, Georgia right now, and let them know a little bit about you if they don't know.
Sure. So Michelle Sumrall. I was born, I lived in Columbus, Georgia, grew up in Columbus. I'm in Macon now. Columbus is still my hometown. I am an HR manager, have a master's in counseling psychology. I've worked in the corporate America for over 30 years, so that makes me sound like really old. Hopefully, I don't look as bad as I sound, as that sounds. But I have one daughter who keeps me extremely busy, and I write. Writing is a passion for me. Um, and right, you mentioned that I was on before, and you come. What was it? You come in as friends and leave as family. That's kind of how it feels.
That's right. That's what we want. That's what we want. We want everybody once they come, to feel like family, where they can reach out, call me. Don't call collect, but they can call me. Whatever they want to
Not a
do.
thing anymore. Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to clear it up just in case. Even if you're in jail, don't call me. Don't call me collect. Don't call me collect. Do it before they say they got to collect call from. Say your name, and then I'll try to find out where you're at. So, um, so I noticed this morning you put a post up, and I shared the post. So anybody that follows R.W. Coolins on Facebook, it is November is National Family Caregiver Month.
It
I did
is.
not know that. I
Mhm.
did not know that. So let the people know before we get into your conversation of what we're going to talk about. Let the people know what National Family Caregiver Month is about and who it's for and what events they. I see you have some events, so you can go into that as well.
Right, sure. So there are caregivers, right? So when a family member falls ill, somebody's got to take care of them. It could be you needing the care. So November is recognized as National Family Caregiver Month. Perfect time for us to be revisiting this conversation. As you mentioned in January, I released. We had a conversation about the prior book that I released, "Scattered: A Caregiver's Journey," and you mentioned that a lot has happened from January to now, and that is absolutely true. To the point where I re-released the book and added the additional learnings in that. So, "Scattered: A Caregiver's Journey Through Alzheimer's Disease and Dementia." That's a journey I had been on for about 12, 13 years with my parents. They were diagnosed about a year and a half apart with dementias. And, you know, I- my stepfather progressed at a much faster rate, and he passed on in February of this year. Um, and there were a whole lot of things that I learned with that, even, and just kind of the business of death, and then what to do to take care of my mother, to continue that care for her. So yes, a lot has happened. A lot has
Mm.
happened. So that kind of encouraged me to start really advocating for caregivers and sharing things that they can do. I stumbled my way through. Honestly, I hit brick wall after brick wall. But I'm a jotter, I'm a journaler. So I noticed that all the things that I wrote down might actually be helpful for someone. So I did add them to the book and just kind of changed it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I wanted to put your the covers of both your books up
Sure.
for those that don't know. So they, if they don't know the name, they can look for the colors because I like the colors.
Mhm.
They're vibrant. But I also want to let everybody know that the book is a good read. My wife said it's a very good, easy read. So, um, no, it's not on the New York bestsellers list. However, it
Yeah.
should be. It should be. Oh, and I say that, people will say, oh,
Mhm.
there you go. But I say that because the information in both of these books is something that we need to know, especially as African Americans, because as I mentioned to you earlier, and I know we'll get into this, I didn't know that the percentage of African Americans are the highest of dementia and Alzheimer's. And I mean, that was news to me, but I mean, you hear it, but unless I guess it's affecting you, your family, and anything like that, you may not know the statistics or anything like that. So go get the book. It's on Amazon, right? They can find them on
Yes.
Amazon. Amazon. All y'all on Amazon buying them, whatever you buy, swing by there and pick up the book as well. I mean, it ain't gonna hurt you. It's
Yeah.
easy read, good information. Go out there and get that. So you rewrote different sections and you mentioned that you had a lot going on, and what was the driving force behind deciding to add to the book that was already informative, in my opinion, informative for folks, but you added more information? What drove that?
Right. So, sometimes we need information in bite sizes, right? Just can you give me a list versus making me go through and pick it out for myself in the book. So I tried to do that for people. Let's make it simple by tacking that on at the end of the book. The the chapters are still the same, but I did add the preface, which talked about what got me, to that particular situation with my stepfather passing, and just kind of how that went down. And then I added a post scattered chapter, which is kind of this current state with my mother right now. But the addendum is just kind of talking about those things that we love to avoid. Excuse me. You have to talk to my daughter about that football game last night. But that we love to avoid. We don't want to talk about the family business. We don't want to talk about our health, and we'll hide it for others. Let's say I have a family member and I know they've been sick. I'm trying to do a few things to take care of them, but I'm not encouraging them to get help. I'm not trying to find the right kind of doctor that they need to go to. So those are the things that I'm trying to spotlight and make sure that we actually take those steps. So if you buy the new book and you just want to read I want you to read it all, because I think the story is worth hearing, and a lot of people can identify with some of the situations that I outlined in the book. But if you need that information, it's there for you in this one. Again, the first one, hey, I still have a few of those if anybody wants them. But the first one, I hadn't made it this far in the process, in the journey. So I felt like it was worthy of tacking that on.
Yeah, and I went back and looked, and I pulled both out yesterday to look and
Mhm.
see, before we had talked, to where you added to. And one of the things that jumped out at me was in your preface of the book.
Yes.
And it mentioned in there that and I'll read it what it says. It says, as the Alzheimer's disease progressed in my mother, I gave much thought to participating in medical research for Alzheimer's treatment. Given the history of medical research in African Americans, it was a tough decision, but in wanting to be prepared and to prepare my daughter while having a chance at the best treatment at this time, I considered participation. My question with that is, you talked about yourself, your mom, your daughter. Now, this trial or the research that they're doing that you talked about being a part of, was that just for your mom, or was it for you and your daughter? Or how? Because I wanted to clear that up, because when I read it, I was like, I wonder if all of them took some type of testing in that manner. But you can go ahead.
Sure. So my mother did go through a research study for, I don't know, probably 8 years of that journey. So she was seeing a neurologist who had her in a study, and they were trying a medication on her. So she would go every week to get infusions, or every other week to get infusions. And I was a part of that study with her because I had to be the memory for her. So it involved an interview with a series of questions of things that were commonly known, or that she should have commonly known about herself, and then they would ask me those same questions to check her memory to see how she was progressing. And so through this course of those years, um, I believe that the medication that she was receiving slowed the progress for her. So I mentioned that my parents were diagnosed about a year apart. Well, my stepfather was not eligible for the study at the time. He had already progressed too far for that study. So what I noticed in him was the dementia, of course, was worse, but physically his body just got weaker and weaker, to the point where he was skin and bones. My mother, on the other hand, she's no longer in the study. She's here in Macon with me to that I can have closer care for her. But she's still walking around. She's still very active. She's still will let you know when she does or doesn't want to do something. So she's better, in a
Mhm.
better place than he was. And I do attribute that to um, the study that she was in, and perhaps those medications that she was receiving. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. I and this is for me as well as everybody else. I mean, I've read definitions and everything. But is there, or do you? I'm pretty sure there might be by now. is there something that tells us exactly what causes dementia and Alzheimer's, or have they clinically shown what exactly causes it in us?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they have. Now, I'm not probably not the best one to tell you what those are, but the strongest predictor of Alzheimer's disease and other dementias is aging.
Mm.
Is simply getting older. I count my birthdays consecutively, and I don't skip years. Some people like to stay at 49 for a few years before they acknowledge 50. But in fact, aging is the strongest predictor. Other health conditions that we tend to be more prone to, heart disease, high blood pressure, things like that, or can also be contributing factors.
Mm.
But ask your doctor. One thing that we don't do is tell our doctor, my memory seems to be getting a little off. We don't do that. That's like we're well down the road before we start to actually admit it. Um, and if you're a caregiver, you need to have that conversation with the doctor. So,
Mm.
and then you mentioned the 10 action steps. Um, I'm encouraging us to set in place those legal documents that we need so that we can legally speak with the doctor. Because of privacy laws, they shouldn't really speak to anyone other than the patient. But that patient may not be able to speak up, for
Mm.
him or herself. So,
Is there and you may not know this either, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head, is there like a age range that it could start, where it could start settling in or anything like that? And I shouldn't say settling in, or start affecting
yeah.
affecting you as you age. Is there like a 60 to 65 or anything like that? Has that been
Yeah.
um
There are a lot of studies around the 65 age time frame, but then there's early onset, you're 45, 55. It could happen at any time depending on your, I guess your makeup. But we look at folks somewhere between 45 and 65 as being that sandwich generation. So
mm,
you're taking care of your family and you're taking care of your parents. So you're just kind of right there in the middle. That's a tough time. But maybe those are times when we should really start being considered about our own self care as well, and having those conversations. Hey, doc, my mother has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. What can I do now?
mm,
There's a certain age group that they actually will start studies for individuals
yeah.
in that space.
Yeah, I asked that because, I think it's something that we don't talk about,
Mm.
and if there are those numbers per se of the age range, I think we all should be aware because, I'm in that getting close to that age range. So that's why I'm asking. And
Yeah.
when you mentioned that, I thought about, and I think everybody's dealt with this is, especially in the African American Black household, of what we used to call roll call,
Mm.
where the parents didn't remember your name off the top, but she called you everybody else's name but yours. And we would look at it and be like, Lord, she done named everybody in the family and still ain't got my name right.
Yeah.
We laugh about it because we remember those days, but then you have to ask, because our grandparents were in that age range, and wonder, could that have been some of the that we didn't know anything about at that
Mhm.
time? That roll call that we call could have been early onset, that we just looked at and say, well, she's getting older, but she don't even remember her own kids now, and that's what came to mind when you were mentioning that.
Yeah, those were clues, right? And we
Mm,
we ignored those. And I did write about those clues and cues and just oddities, those things that happened that I thought, that's strange, but I didn't act on it.
right.
We just say, oh well, she's just being her, um, and we don't act on it. We don't think, okay, this could be the start of something, something a little bit bigger that we should be keying in on. So
Yeah.
hopefully, I'm encouraging people to, when you see that odd thing happen, act on it. There were only two of us, so I have a brother, so we didn't have the whole roll call thing. Um, and now though, there are days that my mother recognizes me, and then there are days that it takes her a minute to kind of focus in. Um,
Mhm.
that hurts, man. Sometimes that hurts,
Yeah.
but and some days I'm her mother, so I'm different roles to her, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah.
And you mentioned how many your mother only had 2 kids. My grandmother had 12.
Oh, yeah.
So we gave her the benefit of the
A
doubt.
roll call. Let me say.
That wasn't a roll call. That was a roster.
Yeah, and hey, you.
She getting out there talking about Lucille, a present. She go down the line,
Yeah,
But it's those things that we look back and at that time period, they had a
mhm,
lot of kids. So you did chalk it up to the fact that, well, he got 12 kids. You ain't gonna remember all of them all the time. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But I wanted to ask that. Now you mentioned and we're gonna go ahead and get into that part right now. The steps, the 10 steps that you 10 actions caregivers should take now. And this is from the website. I want everybody to see from Sumrall.com, SUMRALL.com. You can go there, put your name in, put your email in, and it'll give you the 10 actions for caregivers that they should take now. And you can download it. It'll come straight to you. I already did it. So what we're going to do, I actually put it on a slide so we can go ahead and go through. We're going to have Miss Sumrall go ahead and go through those things. And you don't have to go in depth, just some of the things that you touched on that really jumped out that, you know, you feel people need to know about as
yeah.
caregivers. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you have that. Go ahead.
Okay, absolutely. And now I can't see your screen.
Oh, you can't see. I'm sorry.
So I have my notes though.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm
Well, I
good.
hope I put them in order.
I can put my glasses on
No,
and
that's
try to
fine.
see it.
If you want, I can read them and then you can
No,
elaborate.
no,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. I'm
Okay.
good. I'm good.
Okay. Okay.
So the first one, establish a will and last will and testament. Why we don't have wills or why we think that's something we shouldn't do is beyond me. I mean, even celebrities that I think we feel like we don't have a lot to leave or a lot to give. So what's the point in having a will? Well, you need to designate what you do have, right? And then get your business in order. It just blows my mind that a lot of celebrities leave here and don't have wills in place. That's first step for sure. Plan ahead. Establish a power of attorney. That's very important when it comes to being able to communicate with doctors or with other business partners or whatever about your loved one. They're going to request that for privacy.
Can I ask you a question about the power of attorney? Because I
Mhm.
remember when I was active duty and they used to make us get a power of attorney. There's
Yeah,
different ones. Is there a specific one as a caregiver they should get, or is it? Because I know there's one that does everything, and then there's
yeah.
one that does, and I can't remember the names. I'm sorry, y'all.
So there's a power of attorney and there's a healthcare directive. That may be what you're referring to, which allows someone to kind of speak on your behalf
Oh,
should you
okay.
be incapacitated.
Okay.
But the power of attorney it can be pretty thorough with dealing with your finances, your property, speaking, being able to speak freely on your behalf with caregivers or for me, like I eventually had to turn over and start taking care of the bills, the power, and the water. Well, I needed something to be added to their account, so you have to have that stuff in place. Um, to communicate with doctors, you're going to need the power of attorney, and oftentimes we don't tell the truth to our doctor. I don't know why. We don't like to ask questions. We don't like to tell the truth. So remember going to a couple of appointments with my mother, and she said, well, we're fine, we can go, we don't need to be in here. And I would pull the doctor aside and say, no, this is what's been going on. And initially, he was like, I can't really talk to you about that. I'm like, listen, I have the power of attorney, here it is. And was able to show him, and then he would speak freely at that point.
Mhm.
Because they won't tell them. They won't tell everybody the truth
Right.
about what's really going on with them. Um, Establish reliable and trustworthy emergency contacts. For a lot of people, it's going to be your spouse or your eldest child or whatever, and that's fine. But get that stuff established. For me, I'm a single mom, and I have a very small family, right? So I need that to be in order. Should something just happen to me, I need to know that my daughter's going to be cared for. That that chain of contacts is going to go ahead and take place. Um, Plan ahead. The proper care of a loved one can be very costly. I want to put an emphasis on very costly. Whether you have in-home care or they are cared for in a memory care facility, or even nursing homes are expensive. I think they're probably on the lower end when it comes to different facilities, but it can be very expensive. So, do you have access to the finances that your loved one has, or do you have enough finances to take care of that? So start
Mm,
thinking about that stuff right now so you can prepare for it. Um, it's not something that you want to be caught off guard and end up having to consider a $2 to $5 to $10,000 bill every month, just frankly. Um, Monthly. Yeah. So, prepare. Um, I added in here as number six, but it really should be like number one, number three, number six, number eight. Take time for self care. Um, Oftentimes with caregivers, we are taking care of everything and everybody else, and we let ourselves slip. We put ourselves at the bottom of the list when it comes to, being cared for. So take time for self care. It's okay. Everything's going to be fine. You can't control everything anyway. So take that time for yourself to recharge.
Do you think that's one of the hardest of these 10 actions is to take
Yeah.
time for yourself?
Mhm.
And the only reason I ask that because I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the things you go down. It's easy to go and get a power of attorney if you want to go get it. But
Mhm.
to find the time to take to yourself because you're more concerned about the person that you're caregiving for, I think you get lost in that, from the outside looking in. I think it would be easy because you want to make sure that they're okay.
Right.
And we put our okay on the back burner.
Yeah.
Um, because I think we talked about that when you were on the first time, and you mentioned it with you where you had to try to get that balance in there.
Right. Yeah, because I kind of crashed. I had to, I really had to, my health started to decline. So I
Mm,
really had to take a look at, okay, I'm doing all this for everybody. But they're going to continue on, right? God's got them. So, I had to get my faith game back up, and it takes some time for me. And nothing changed. Things were still sitting there waiting for to be done, so it was okay to take that time, but we have to give ourselves permission. A lot of, I speak to Black women. We're super women, right? We've got this
mm,
cape, we put it on, we go out into the world, and we just conquer all these tasks, do all these things. But at the end of the day, we're tired, we're worn out.
yeah.
We haven't been cared for, we haven't been listened to. So I just strongly encourage to take that step, multiply it by however many times you need, and take the time for yourself. I talk to people now who are on this journey, and I'll tell them when I can hear it in their voice. It's like, okay, what have you done for you? And
Mm,
they're like, I feel guilty about going to a show. Why? Go enjoy yourself. So I'm doing a whole lot more of that in this space, and just sitting and reading. I love to just read. Just give me quiet time, and just let me read. Um, so in step number seven, you may need to manage the utility accounts. I kind of touched on that. There was a point and I mentioned it in the book, that I got a call from one of the caregivers at my parents' house that the power was off, and I was like, "Why? Why would the power be off?" Knowing the finances they had coming in, they were diligent about paying their bills. So it was just really odd. So when I called and got it back on that day, that moment. But I went home the next day because I'm like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And started looking around, and all this mail, all this stacks of mail and things like that were piled up. And my mom had taken cash, so she would go to the bank, get
mm.
cash, and she put it in the envelope. So George Power got it. The money is in the envelope. Physically, the cash is in the envelope, and all she needed to do was take it to the power company to pay the bill. But that step she forgot. So it
Wow.
turns, yeah. So I found like all the bills were paid, just it was in the envelope. So
It
yeah,
didn't make it to its final destination. That was
he
the
did make it to his final destination,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So you may, but to be added to those accounts, you need to reach out to them. They may require a power of attorney, which was one of the earlier steps to get you added to that account. Another thing with that is that if they're incapacitated or not able to make the decisions on their own, the power company, the water company, they need to know that. That may require a letter from the doctor. They may take your word for it and add you to the account so that you can manage it. But what you
Mhm.
don't want is, an elderly parent to have their power cut off and they need heat, or they need air conditioning or some other medical equipment. So they had that on file, so they wouldn't cut it off. Even if the bill went behind, they wouldn't cut it off. They would reach out to me and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I ain't got a payment in a while." Um, so that was a really important step that I stumbled into when the power got cut off. Um, so it's also a good time to set up your own account, right? I'm doing all this talking about setting up for your caregivers. Think about yourself, right? We're all, again, however you count your age, we're all getting older, and we never know. You never know what tomorrow will bring, or if tomorrow will come. So now is the best time to go ahead and set that up. Excuse me. Establish early contact with military resources. So if you are a veteran or if you're in the military, make sure that your resources are aligned there. The VA does have advocates. I'm not sure exactly what they call them, but that will speak with you and kind of get you looped in with all the resources and benefits that are
I
available to
think I think it's the VSO, Veteran Service
them. Okay.
Organization or representative, something to that effect. Yeah. And I
Mhm.
like where you put on this step can be time consuming, but it's very important. And
Yes, it can be very time consuming. So start early. Is what I'm
yeah,
saying. Yeah.
early.
Right. It saves a whole lot of stress later because you know that there's a bucket of benefits over here, but you can't get to them because of all the length of time it takes. So
Mhm.
if you go ahead and set it up now, say, hey, this is my mom, my dad, they were in the military and they're starting down that trek of needing the benefits. So
Yeah.
start sooner rather than later. And know your loved one's final wishes. Have the conversation. It's a tough one, and I remember having that conversation with my mother, and I thought, this is so bizarre. Why are we talking about this? I don't want to be talking about this, Mom. I don't want to think about you leaving this earth. But she pulled me aside and she said, okay, well, you don't have to talk, just listen. Here's my will. I have one in this drawer and I have a copy for you. This is what I want. I mean, and I do have it tucked away. My mother wrote her eulogy. Like
Mm.
I didn't want to think about that. I'm so far from thinking about that. But she did all that. She added me to bank accounts. Um, and I know some of the fear in that is like, I don't want, you got kids you can't trust or whatever. I don't want them taking all my money, or messing with myself. I'm good. I didn't need any of that. So, but when it came time to me needing it, I was already on the account. I
Yeah.
went with her to the bank, at one point just to kind of assess what the situation was. And so you've been on the account for years. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I knew she put me on there, but I didn't need to manage them at that point. So, have that conversation. They may want some simple ceremony and where you've got this big elaborate thing planned. Um, and then, I don't know if you want to roll into the business of death, but this
Yeah,
is
you just took the words out of my mouth because I want to bring up something specific that you said in the business of death, and it's number 4. And
okay.
y'all need to go get the book but it says, and I want everybody to hear this because I think this is where we get caught up in some things, and the questions you ask and there really jumped out at me. But it says number 4 in the appendix A of the book, The Business of Death. Number 4, don't bury a person in better digs than the home in which they lived. Caskets can be quite costly. Choose wisely and financially sound. That is what I want you to hear. Who are you trying to impress with this ceremony? The now deceased loved one or the funeral attendees? Let's stop right there for a minute.
Mhm.
Because I think that's very important for us to hear, even though most of us don't want to hear it. Because you mentioned that your mother did her own eulogy. We don't want to talk about death. We don't
No.
want any of that.
Mhm.
But a lot of us have this visions of grandeur, per se, when it comes to a funeral. They got to be made up this way. We got to buy this new suit. We got to make sure he's this way, this way. Who's it for? And when you said that in there, it really made me think, who are we trying to impress
Mhm.
during the loss of a loved one that we feel we got to have this bar mitzvah type atmosphere to
Yeah,
send them home to glory? And
right.
I'm glad you put that in there because it really made me sit back and reflect on what do I want and do am I prepared to sit down, write my eulogy and all the things that I want done? Because I think sometimes we think when we leave here that we expect everybody to have this great extravagant homegoing service.
Why? Yeah,
Why go into debt?
yeah. And that's what
to
happens. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't realize until talking. I think me and my stepdad and my mom were talking one day because they brought it up about plots, caskets, and stuff. And I was like, caskets cost that much? And then reality hit me. Wow, it costs a lot to bury somebody. So if you already know these expenses are there and you haven't planned accordingly,
Yeah.
why go in debt? Why should the people that are here go in debt feeling that they're doing the person that passed away a service by having this gold plated casket and all this type of stuff when, they're just happy to be with God at this point. And we're
Yeah.
down here trying to make this, marching bands and all this kind of stuff that are going to waste. I'm sorry, but let me
Yeah.
finish.
Mhm.
Um, who are you trying to impress with this ceremony? The now deceased loved one or the funeral attendees? Hopefully, those close to your loved one visited long before it was time to lower the casket into the ground. Show love while your loved ones are here. Give them their flowers now. Wow. That jumped out at me because we don't want to talk about death. And you mentioned it numerous times, and I probably said it about 4 times since I've been talking about it. But we don't want to talk about it. But at the same time, what you mentioned about hopefully the loved ones and the people that care about their person have come before the funeral to pay the respects, to give them the flowers, to at least just say, hey, I love you. I appreciate what you brought to my life. And that conversation, and I'll go to something you said, and it goes back in the book, I think it was in your preface when you talked about your stepdad and when you went to see him that last time. Um, and I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but I remember that you said that, Pop, Pop, we love you. If you want to go ahead and go. I think that's one of the things that we don't do because we
Yeah.
get selfish. We get selfish and we want them to be here forever. No matter the pain, the suffering, as much as we don't want them in pain, our selfishness says, I don't want you to go. I don't want you to go.
Right.
And what jumped out of me when you said that in there was that I've heard that from many people who have had loved ones pass, and they just said, once I told that person, we're okay. You fought the good fight. Rest. You don't have to be tired no more. It's like right after that, they go on because
Yeah.
that's something that I don't think we really want to say, but it's something that needs to be said. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's hard. That was really
yeah,
hard. Like literally seeing him struggling to take breaths,
mhm,
And we were fine.
yeah,
you know. We didn't believe there was going to be this turnaround. That's not that disease, right?
yeah, yeah,
God can do all things, but if it's God's time that He left us, then that was His time. I didn't want Him fighting to hang on. Um, you know,
yeah,
but
eh,
for us, when we were good, we were okay.
yeah,
So yeah, that was a tough day. By the time I got home, I got a call a couple hours later
yeah,
that he had passed. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm
and
glad I went that day. Something woke me up, saying, you know what, you need to go to Columbus for a visit. And so
mhm,
that's all I did. I actually went and worked from there, worked from the room, just kind of sat in there with him, and
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah. It's
we have to let go sometimes.
yeah, and I'll be honest with the viewers out there, and I get a little teary eyed right now because I remember we talked about him when you were on the first time, your stepdad, and the vision you pictured him in, the sharp uniform and everything like that, how he carried himself. And then when I read what you had written, what we just talked about, it hit me because I know you now, and then thinking that I knew him through what you described me, I think one of the biggest things we have to remember is that we're all going to leave here somehow, some way, in due time. But I think we need to get to the point where we make our family members comfortable enough to know that when our time comes, that we're comfortable with that time,
Right.
that they're not trying to hold on, keep us holding on for their own selfish reasons per se. And that, when you mentioned it, I'm pretty sure when you go back and you look over it or you think about that time, it's one of those emotional moments because we don't want to see anybody leave here, but we know it's best because of the suffering, the pain, and everything we see them in. And we're gonna move past that because I can go, I can go for a while with that. Trent Branch, we're selfish when it comes to letting go. Let God's will be done. Exactly.
Mhm.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. So in your appendix B of the book, the family action plan. Hmm.
Yeah.
The one that really jumped out at me in this one, not only the financial plan, because I think that's something we take for granted too, because we always worry about our finances, but we don't think about what could happen with our
Right.
family members. And you just mentioned something I didn't know, $10,000 a month for care
Yeah.
and above. And above for
Uh-huh.
good care. Let's clear this up. For good care in most
Right.
cases. But the elder care plan, who will
Yeah.
take care of you if needed as you age? Consider daily as well as long-term care. And then what plans should be made? Financial, legal, health care, insurance, property. What plan should you make? Can you elaborate on that a little bit on the elder care plan? Because I don't think a lot of us think about
Yeah, so that's just what I'm considering you planning ahead. So, some of us are tucking away retirement funds. Some of us are tucking. We may have long term care insurance out there, and I'm not an insurance salesman by any stretch,
that.
but those are the types of things that can help you cover the costs of elder care, of that care. Um, but the key thing is to plan now because it is expensive. It is very expensive. We were looking at 24/7 care for both parents.
Mm,
And in all transparency, it was very expensive. It was close to $10,000 a month. But my parents retired well, so fortunately, we were able to kind of keep that up. Um, but that's a lot of people aren't in that space because they didn't prepare for it. There may be other benefits resources out there with the insurance that they do have. um, Look into those now while you can. I know nursing homes aren't as expensive as that, but you really want to envision your loved one in the best possible situation. So, um, but you have to prepare for it because you have to pay for that stuff. So
yeah.
that's kind of the crux of the elder care plan. It's just being prepared um, for that.
And I
If
think
somebody were to hit you with a $10,000, $5,000 bill a month, what do you do with that? So a lot of us bring our parents or our loved ones home to live with us, and that's fine if you can do that. But I work full time, and my daughter is,
right,
and she's pretty active, and I can't be here totally to take care of everything, right? And
right.
that it starts to wear on us physically and mentally as well if you're that caregiver trying to do it all. So plan,
Yeah.
prepare for it.
And I'm gonna sound facetious when I say this, and I don't want nobody to get mad at me. Don't at me. But nowhere in there did Miss Sumrall say anything about a GoFundMe as far as being prepared. And I say that jokingly, but we see it too many times where people are not prepared and they rely on a GoFundMe to do what they should have been planning for. Now, there's things that happen that we don't prepare for. I
Mhm.
understand that, but everything should not be based around a GoFundMe. It just, when I see it, I understand, but do I understand? You know what I mean? I mean, it's just one of those things that, we all need help sometimes, but come on, y'all. Come on. Um, let's go into this here.
Mhm.
I want to bring this up. Your life coaching. Let's talk about your life coaching because I
Mhm.
know you know I have an interest in that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So, with
So,
your life coaching,
yeah. So,
what type? Well, let me you explain to us what your life coaching is about, and I'll leave it at that.
okay, no. So I look at my life coaching business, TLC, Total Life Coaching, LLC, on like the full lifespan, right? We've got people dealing with all types of things. So it's not just um, in this space of aging and how to take care of that, but we've got young adults that are moving into the workforce, and I've heard this term adulting is difficult. Yeah, that wasn't a term when we grew up. It's you go from your a child in your mom's house or your parents house to you got to grow up and you have to do what's entailed with that. But a lot of people are struggling with this whole adulting thing now. So, and then to bring it on down to the children, my daughter's age. She's a 15-year-old 10th grader. These kids are struggling with forces that we didn't have, and we thought it was rough. When we were growing up. It's nothing like what they're having, kind of on a global scale, with all the social media, with all of the cyberbullying, and just the things that they have to face. So while I separate myself from the counseling space, even though I have that background, I'm really my goal is to help people achieve their goals, identify and achieve their goals. What are those things that you have to put in place to get to where you want to be? And again, that can run kind of the gamut of the total life.
Mhm.
Um, I like writing, and I like to tell stories that are about real life, and drop little nuggets in there about how
Yeah.
to achieve those goals, how my characters came from where they started in the book to where they are now. What were those things that they did? So I kind of look at I'm combining two passions. I love the mental health space and authoring and writing. So.
Yeah. We I don't know if you watched it. Last week we did a barbershop talk about mental health amongst black
Mhm.
males. And one of the things you just mentioned is like this younger generation. And I found a statistic that I thought was very important that we don't pay attention to, but from 2011 to 2021, there was a 58% increase in suicides amongst African Americans. 58%.
Yeah.
And then the largest range of suicides were between the ages, I don't want to get it wrong. I think it started at the age of 12
Mhm.
for African Americans, 12-year-olds, 12-year-olds now. So, and that's why I wanted to talk about your life coaching, because I think a lot of people don't understand what life coaching is about. It's not to tell you what to do. It's to
Mhm.
try to give you a little guidance in the direction you're going to do. Because I'm not going to tell you don't do this. You need to do that. What are you trying to do? What direction you're trying to go in? And let's try to find a path to get there rather than trying to find it on your own. Because I always say suffering in silence is what most of us do.
Right.
Most of us suffer in silence. And when I read that about the 58% increase of suicides amongst African
Mhm.
Americans, blacks, that jumped out at me because we, like we jokingly say, we don't kill ourselves. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. And
Yes, we
and
do.
at a higher rate now.
At a much higher rate now.
Mhm.
And then you have to, like I always say, we need to get to the root cause, because a lot of times we just scratch the surface. But what is causing this younger generation to feel that it's better to just take my life to leave here than to try to work through or seek some help or any of that kind of stuff. But I'm sorry, I went
Mm.
off a little bit on that.
No, that is actually, if I can add,
Mhm.
perfect segue. My next project is um, about that, and it's called the bully, and the bystander, and it's around teenagers. It's kind of a teenage fiction. It is fiction. It is fiction, um, but we've been touched or aware of a couple of teenagers recently who have taken their own lives, and
Mm.
That just tugs at me in unbelievable ways because I'm raising one, right? And I like to think we have a good relationship, and I know what's on her mind, what's going on with her, and we're always together. We're talking all the time, but you just don't know what drives somebody to that point. So I'm hoping to shed some light on that. Maybe from a parent standpoint, like we can be aware. Let's start talking to our kids, right? Let's not keep them in darkness like we were kept in darkness. We didn't talk about those things, with the elder care. We didn't talk about somebody not being well. It's okay to not be okay. Mental health is real, and there is help out there. There's help available for us now. Where before in the Black community, you don't go to therapy. That's a luxury that wasn't afforded to us. It should have been, right, and it certainly is now. So, yeah, so perfect. Thank you for that. You even
Yeah.
know you gave me that segue.
Yeah, well, I knew we were going to talk about it, but it did segue in there perfectly. I guess I'm getting a little better at this. But I got a phone call, and I don't want to put the person's name out there, but I'm just going to give you an example of what we're talking about. I got a phone call. Well, I called somebody the other day, just check in, do a check in. And he said he's been going through it. He has a teenage daughter. And his daughter came to him and told him that she wasn't doing well. So she had been going to a therapist. So they took her to talk to the therapist. And it was at the point where they actually admitted her
Mhm.
for a couple of days. And I say that, not to put anybody's business out there because I don't want anybody to think that. I'm putting this out there is that the relationship that you have with your children and the communication that you have with your children can go to two ends of a spectrum. But the fact
Mhm.
that he had good relationship, good communication with his daughter, she let him know that she was not okay and that she needed to go see somebody. So when you talk about the things that the young generation is dealing with and everything like that, I don't have teenagers. I got children. They're a little older, but we all struggle at some time.
Sure.
We all struggle. And I'm a true proponent that when you need help, you don't have to seek help by yourself. Ask somebody, talk to somebody. You can talk to somebody, and I always say this to men: if you can call your buddy up and talk about somebody hit a game-winning shot last night, you should feel just as comfortable calling and letting them know, hey man, I'm going through something. And maybe that little push to get, hey man, you need some help or that guidance will go a long way. Um, but when you talk about children, that's a different
Mhm.
dichotomy altogether because you ask yourself, I know I asked myself, I think back to when I was their age, if I was 12 years old or 14 or 16, what peer pressures did I see that were upon me to get me to the point where I wanted to leave here? So that's why I say that communication, that relationship, it goes a long way. As much as we don't think it does, you can talk to your kids about anything and everything, whether they open up, you don't know. But as long as they have the avenue when they need it, that's all you can ask for.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to your book. And what's the title of it again? Or have you titled it?
Yeah, it's the bullied, the bully, and the bystander, and it kind of goes through the lives of these three kids that intersect and intertwine
Mhm. You
throughout
got
the.
a co-author on this one too, right?
Yeah, I do have a co-author on this. My
Yeah,
daughter
yeah.
is
Let's not leave the
co-author.
co-author out. Let's not leave the co-author out
Let's
now.
not leave her out, Aleisha Sumrall. So we'll start some promotions probably early December on that one.
Mhm.
We're still in the writing phase of it, but that first draft will be done early December.
Well, we're gonna
Sure.
go ahead and put that invite out now. Once that book is done and I receive my copy, we will have you and Miss Alicia on, and we're gonna talk about that book. And I think that's what we need to do is start highlighting the young kids that are involved in these things because they recognize it. And there's some of them that are trying to do whatever they can to try to help somebody else. They just don't
Mhm.
know how. They don't know a
Right.
way to go about it. And I think this book, with her co-authoring will give her a better understanding because she sees what you do. She understands all that. But now with her having that guidance, who knows? She may be the New York bestseller before her
Yeah,
mama. I
before
don't
you,
know.
and that's fine. Yeah. That's fine. And one thing, and it just kind of to close that note out.
Mhm.
Parents, talk to your children, right? Don't let the day go by when she walks in the house because I'm working from home most days, or if I pick her up. First thing we do is the rundown. I need run your day down for me. Let me hear what happened. who said what to whom. I want to hear about your classes too, but run it down for me. What all went on today? And
Yeah.
sometimes she gets in, oh, it was nothing. We did this A B C D, nothing. And then other days she's like, girl. Yep. So we talk like that. So she's like, oh, let
Girl.
me tell you, girl. I'm like,
uh, Brian Hoodie asks, will this new book, be an audio book?
the bully and
Yeah.
the bystander, or
The bully and the
yes, we
bystander.
will do an audiobook
Okay.
on that one shortly after release. I think you do shortly after the release. I am still trying to get Scattered put on an audiobook. I would be the best person to read that, honestly, but it just takes me through so much,
I'm
honestly,
sure.
to read it. So, but I need to do that. I think your wife and I talked about that before.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
still working on it.
Probably- Well, I'm pretty sure. And I mean, even when we were discussing your stepfather, I could see
Yeah.
where, and it's understandable. I mean, we want to give everybody what they want, but they got to understand it. We got some things we got to fight through to give you. We're gonna provide.
Yeah,
We got
yeah.
to fight through some things sometimes. So I'll help with the voiceover on the bully, but I don't know if I
Okay.
can tone mine down that much, to be because I'm pretty sure it's like kids, right? And more fashion than one, but we'll,
Right.
we'll 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 cross that bridge. But um, the new book, I'm gonna bring them up again. Bring both of them up because I want people to go get both of them because we need to support. That's something we don't do enough of. We don't support. We don't. We
Yeah.
don't. Let's just be real. We don't. Um, but if you have the first book, get the new book. If you don't have neither book, get both books. If you just want the one with the family plan and the family action plan and the caregivers, do that. But make sure that you do go and download the 10 action caregivers, 10 actions that caregivers should take now. www.michellesumrall, no e.com. That's the website. That's the website. Because I know you get Summerall all the time, as we
All the
mentioned.
time. Yeah.
And then those are the steps we went through. Um, I want to ask you this last question before we wrap it up. I
Okay.
want to ask you this last question. So you say you've been a caregiver for how many years now? Between
About 13 now. Yeah, going
13
on.
years. For two people, not one now. I want everybody to hear this, not one, but two people. In those 13 years, how much have you changed? How much has it changed you? How much has it changed you? As far as
Yeah.
I know you look at life differently. I'm pretty sure. I don't put words in your mouth, but I'm pretty sure you look at life a lot differently. But just as not a mother, not an author, any of that, no certified life coach or anything, but just as Michelle Sumrall, the woman, the sorrow, how's it changed you?
This would have been hard for me to say a few years ago,
Mhm.
but I am not invincible. Yeah, I was Superwoman, Wonder Woman, whatever, right? Felt like I could do it all. But I am not invincible. I took off my cape when I released the first book. Honestly, I felt freed by that. Freed from, we keep all these secrets that only come back to cause us harm and damage and stress. And so I freed myself from all of that with the journaling and the releasing of the book. I freely talk about these things because I think it will help others. But yeah, I'm not invincible, and I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
Yeah. And I want people to, I want them to understand why I asked you that question. I wanted to ask you that question because I think sometimes we feel we have to be
Mhm.
everything to everybody all the time. And a lot of times what we see, we watch enough movies where we see where people lose who they are because of what they're dealing with and what they're going through. And you're talking about 13 years. And I want people to think about this. It's 13 years. Some of you haven't been on a job for 13 years. The same job. Let me say that. The same job for 13 years. So 13 years of still being, now we put it in there as a mother, a caregiver, an employee, or a business owner, all these different hats that she's worn for the last 13 years, and she's still standing. She's still standing, but it's also she's still learning, which is why she takes the time to put this information in the book to try to help those to maybe not have to go through those same steps or
Right.
have an idea when those steps come of how they're going to make it through. So I applaud you. I appreciate you. I mean, because I think most of us listening can only imagine taking care of two people, a daughter, and I don't say two people, two parents, a daughter, and still trying to maintain a sense of, and I don't like to use this word, Joe, normalcy per se
Hmm.
in our life where we're able to function and continue doing our thing. So I appreciate you. Anytime you come on, it's a learning experience for me. But I don't want to let you go yet because I got something that. So James Battle says the book Scatters is exceptional. Thanks for the book.
Thank you.
Josh Boyd, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate you, bro. Um, National Family Caregiver Month. Now
Yes.
you're on here today, November 4th. I see you put me in the spotlight. I appreciate that. But you got some other things this week, and I want you to tell people where they can actually see you or get some more information about what you got going on this week, as well as the month. So I know November 8th, you have a reading excerpts. What is that going to be about?
Yeah, so I'll just read some excerpts from the book and post
Mm,
those on social media. So go and follow my author page. I'll post them on the TLC page as well. The author page is author Michelle Sumrall. I think you can find it that way in Facebook and Instagram. It'll be on Instagram. So I'll definitely be playing. This will be a heavy rotation, this podcast. So I appreciate the timing on this one, Rodney.
no.
So from the 5th through the 9th, I'm asking, and you'll see a post about that a little later today. I'm
Mhm.
asking 4 questions. If you have questions, you're going through something, your journey starting, you're in the middle of it. Um, DM me those questions, and on Friday, I will answer the questions. I'm considering live or recording the answer, but I won't use any names. So, maintain your confidentiality and anonymity. But I will answer those questions to the best of my ability. So, if you have questions out there, please just drop me a message with what that question is, and we'll get you some help.
Yeah. And this is the website www.michellesumrall.com. You see her nice website. I need to work on mine because I seen yours and I got a little jealous. But this is her website. You can go there. That's where you can find the books. You can find her life coaching. But on the social media platforms, author Michelle Sumrall and just Michelle Sumrall, you can go there and follow her and find out everything she's doing for this month and ongoing and ongoing. Like I said, for anybody to watch the show on a regular basis, that's family now. So y'all going out there and send a page, a friend request to family, so we can keep supporting, and we're gonna have her on. And I'm gonna ask you this, Michelle. Now I'm gonna put you on the spot with this one. I want to do. I like when I do this. I want to do something along the same lines as what I do for the barbershop talk with the men
Hmm.
for women. I don't want to moderate it. I'm trying to convince my wife to moderate it.
Yes.
But if we can get this going, I would like you to be on for some of those discussions. And I want everybody to know when we do the barbershop talk, they always ask me for the topics. I only give them the topic. I don't give them nothing about what I'm going to ask or anything because you go to barbershop, you're not prepared
Yeah.
to. You just talk about whatever's going on. But I think we need to have the same type of platform for women as well. So I'm going to ask you to be a part of that, and I'm trying, like I said, I'm trying to convince my wife. She ain't bit off on it yet, but I'm working on that. But I want to have something for women where they can come in and do the same thing as far as what just talk about what's going on and what y'all deal with. Because the mental health last week that we did, oh my goodness, I mean, I got so many calls about that, and all the fellas that were on called me talking about how much feedback they got and everything. And I think a lot of it was not what we talked about, but
Mhm.
more that everyone that had something to say was vulnerable about what they had to say. Goes a long way than what a lot of people think. So good idea. Thank you, Trent. Thank you, Trent. Appreciate it. Michelle Long, good morning, Rodney. Wonderful show today. Great information. Thank you very much. Thanks for always tuning in. Brian Hoodie came up with a name, The Beauty
The
Shop.
beauty shop. Yeah. Yeah. Tell her I'm in, by the way. So just let me know.
What's that again?
I'm in. Let me
You're
know.
in. Okay, yeah, I'll let you know. I'll let you know because I wanna try to expand what we do here, because I know everybody always hears about the politics, what's going on in the world and everything. We haven't done that for about 3 weeks now, and I feel so
Mhm.
good.
I know.
But I'll be back and get into it next week. But no, I think we need to have some of those conversations because they're the raw, they're unprepared, unscripted, and people are just telling exactly how they feel about the situations and what's going on. So I'll mark you down. Anybody else, any other women out there that want to be involved, shoot me an email, text rwcoolins@yahoo.com. Send me a message through Messenger. Who the moderator is going to be yet, I don't know, but I'm sure she's listening in the back, probably throwing furniture and everything else because I put her out there like that. But this is what we do. This is what we do. So again, Michelle, I appreciate it. And if there's anything, is there anything, one last thing that you want to leave everybody with today, concerning dementia, Alzheimer's, or anything that you feel that a good word per se, as the pastor would say, a good word
That
for the
good.
folks that are listening today?
Yeah, you are not alone. There is help. There are people that are in your same situation that may be a little farther along that can give you suggestions or just listen. Sometimes it's just you just want to be heard, but just know that you're not alone and it's okay to reach out for help.
Yeah, and that's something that I think we all need to get better at because I think we all think we're, as you mentioned before, invincible.
Mhm.
But then when something hits us, when it knocks us down to our knees, I think sometimes our mindset is, well, I'm only on my knees. I ain't face down.
That's how,
So I
yeah.
can still fight. I can fight from my knees. I can't fight face down. So I think we can still take things on. But as I said, I appreciate you coming on. Your family now. We'll have you on when what's the new book come out? You and Miss Aleisha. Aleisha, right?
Aleisha. Mhm.
Aleisha, we'll have y'all both back on. And I appreciate your time. For everybody out there listening, hopefully you got something from this. You can't, like I said, we come as friends, we leave as family. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see y'all again next week. And I'll be back talking about probably some. Well, no, I'm trying to have another guest on, but we'll go there. Because next weekend, let me just put it out there, is Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Next weekend is Veterans Day. So I want everybody out there, if you know a veteran when that time comes around, you should be thanking them all the time, but just don't wait until that day. But I want to try to do something special next week for Veterans Day. Don't know what it is yet, but I'll let you know when we get there. As I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely, most definitely, most definitely keep your faith in God. I'll see y'all again next week. Thank you again, Miss Michelle, and
Thank
we're out. Talk to y'all later.